Hi, this is Coach Colette, welcoming you to another episode of Coach Chat. In today's episode, I have a conversation with Nando Rodriguez. He is a friend of mine and also a breakthrough coach operating out of New York City. He offers both individual and group coaching sessions to help cause breakthroughs by smashing your limited beliefs. How does he do all of this? Well, he's also trained in EFT, like I am, or emotional freedom technique. And he brings another skill to the table, NLP, which is Neurolinguistic Programming, that helps you to produce breakthroughs while using your natural abilities. In this episode, we are talking about self-confidence. We talk about many of the things that get in the way and stop us from feeling self-confident, particularly for women and women of color. And in this episode, Nando shares 3 ways that you can enhance or boost or amp up your self-confidence. So get ready to learn and be inspired by this episode of Coach Chat with me and breakthrough coach Nando. Listen up. So, hey everyone, this is Coach Colette, and I'm excited for another episode of Coach Chat. And today I'm really happy to bring to you one of my friends and colleagues, Nando, who's also known as the Breakthrough Coach here in New York City. And he really helps clients to transform their mindsets, their actions, and their lives. He's skilled in this NLP thing, which I'm going to have to ask him a little bit more about. I do EFT, he does NLP, I don't know, all these acronyms. But anyway, excited to welcome you to the show, Nando.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited. And yeah, let's just dig in.
Yeah. So the Breakthrough Coach, what's that all about?
Well, what I like to say is that I help people create breakthroughs in areas where they're stuck in, right? So wherever there isn't any movement, and sometimes people will identify my career or my relationships or my finances, right? And so if there's not any movement in any area of your life, let's create a breakthrough.
Awesome. Very cool. And how aware do you think people are about being stuck? Do you find that people come to you and like, I'm so stuck and I need your help? Or are they a little less aware of that there's something wrong?
Yeah. So the people that come to me are like, I'm going to say third wave thinkers. And that means that there's something that they caught that's like, something doesn't feel right, something doesn't move right, something doesn't look right, taste right, whatever it is. But what I find in everyday life, the majority of people, they're just okay with how things are going because they just feel like that's just how life is. And I used to be one of those people. I didn't realize that there was another way to live life, right? So I thought it was okay for me to dread going to work. I thought it was okay for me to like be stuck in a place, trapped in a place, in a cubicle, where it was 9 to 8 p.m. because all my other friends were doing that too. And then we'd get together at happy hours or whatever and then just commiserate, right? Like, ooh, I hate my job. I don't like my boss. There's a gossiping coworker, da-da-da. And because that's what everybody else is talking about doing, so I must be doing something right? Right. Until I discovered like, wait, these people must be lying who say there's another way to live. These people must be like, they must be on drugs or something if they're like really happy. And yes, even when you've created a new way of living, you're going to have your bad days. You're going to have your bad moments. That it would be fake and false for me to say, once you move to the other track of things, everything's perfect. But it just really does. I find that the people that you're asking, do they know? The answer is no, because they're resigned. They just don't even know what else is out there.
Right. It's kind of like the levels of consciousness, right? They don't even know what they don't know yet.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. And so, I mean, I was kidding. I do know about NLP, but how does NLP play into that? How
tell our listeners what that is.
Yeah. So first of all, so my coaching is founded on NLP, which is Neurolinguistic Programming. And Neurolinguistic Programming is where we take a look at what are the results that you're having currently. So it might be like, I'm waking up tired, I'm waking up frustrated, I'm unhappy in life. Okay, so that's the result. That's where you're in. Okay, so what are the actions that you're taking that are giving you that result? Well, I'm at a job I don't like. I'm at a job that doesn't appreciate me. I don't have purpose. I just show up and just do the thing, and I can't wait till 5 o'clock hits. Okay, so that's the behavior. Okay, so what has you, is that the only place you could work? Oh, well, no, but, and then, right? So it's mindset, action, behavior, and then the result. So NLP really gets you to look at all three and the relationship between the three of them to let you see, wait a minute. So it's the actions, but why do I take these actions? Because it's your mindset, and that's where you get the results. That's where you're at. And so if we're able to like really deconstruct some of those limited beliefs, right? I had somebody had a consultation with this past Saturday, and she was just like, I'm unhappy where I'm at. I'm miserable. There's no purpose. And I hear this a lot. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, in her job, and her answer was, I'll just get a new job, right? Okay, great. You get a new job. Are you going to ensure, how will you ensure that you're not going to be you're not going to create the exact same situation at that new job? So it's not necessarily like, I'm miserable at work, let me find a new job. It's like, what are the thoughts that are keeping you miserable at work, right? Because if you take a look at that person, I had another client, and he switches jobs every 6 months because he was like, it's the job. And after coaching with me, he absolutely fell in love with the current job he was at. Because when he reached out to me, he was going to apply for he was in the process of interviewing for Google. And he just knew. I just know now, for a matter of fact, that when I get this job at Google, my job misery will be over. And what he discovered was, no, it wouldn't be. Because whatever he created at every job, he'd take along with him, right? It's not enough. I'm not appreciated. I don't have a purpose. And once he actually discovered, believe it or not, and he's in L&D, learning and development, right, at his company. And in one of the sessions, I was like, seriously, like, you don't feel valued. There's nothing you've ever done that anyone has ever come up to you that's made you pat yourself on the back. And we're sitting there in discovery, and then he says, oh, you know what? About 3 months ago, I did this training with 45 people, and I got 20 emails the next day of how amazing that training was and how I just made their lives easier by showing them a new way to, to plan or to create presentations or whatever. And I'm like, but 10 minutes ago, you couldn't remember that, right? So it's digging so inside that you even realize how you block things because you're so inside of, my job is miserable, I need a new one, yet good stuff is happening, good stuff is occurring, and it's just, there's a block there. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And again, why, sort of kidding aside, that's why I love EFT, emotional freedom technique, because it's another way of getting at those same types of limiting beliefs and going back into, right, when did that actually happen? Where did it occur? When did that belief, how am I storing it in my body? So it's very similar in terms of not just looking at your present situation, but how you got to where you are from somewhere else.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I also do some EFT.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I'm certified in EFT as well.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I think the mind-body connection is so fascinating, and the more that we each learn, and for me personally, even when I come up against my blocks, and I will find someone to do an EFT session for myself. Like, I do my own regular tapping, but there are some times where, like, okay, this is a trigger, this is hitting something, I'm hitting a wall, I need to work with someone to go deeper on it. So I do that for myself as well. And I know that you said that you work with your coach when you hit blocks as well.
Yeah, I think it's so important. And I'm so happy that you said that because, again, for me, it's like I never sell myself as I've reached the pinnacle of success. I've reached the pinnacle of perfection in my own life. So now I'm going to show you how to be perfect just like me. No, I actually coach from my breakdowns, you know? And when I jump on a session with a client, I never know what'll come out because I'm not sure what breakdowns will come up for them that I'll be able to say, oh, let me tell you about what happened to me last week, right? This occurred, I got triggered, da da da. And then this is how I handled it. This is how I was able to work through it. What are you hearing for yourself? And then they're just like, oh yeah, you know? So definitely, and I'm glad that you have someone. I've got 3 people I reach out to because if one's not available, I jump to the next one. I'm no longer a lone wolf.
Right.
I am just like, where's my tribe? You know?
That's so important. Yeah. And I know that, so we both work with women leaders and women founders. And I know that today we had set the intention to talk about confidence. And so how would you say this plays into self-confidence, whether it's limiting beliefs or getting stuck? Is there a connection?
So for me, what the pattern that's been emerging from my clients, my female clients, is that there's an obstacle, whatever it is, whether it's in relationship, whether it's in career, whether it's in finances. And what it comes down to is somewhere they subscribe to the belief that because, you know, I'm female or what have you, I'm not powerful enough, right, to get through it, right? Example, you're not enough until you get married. You're not someone until you're married and have kids, right? And so for my top executive women who are in top positions, there's that missing because society or what has told them, this is what you need. And then it brings their confidence down. Like there's that myth, they're walking around with that missing. And as you know, if something's missing, you're not whole. And then so you just don't feel complete, which is complete falsehoods, fake news, because I subscribe to the idea that we're all whole, perfect, and complete. It's just we don't have access to some of that just yet.
Right.
So confidence is a big one.
Yeah, I agree. I think that sense of, and it's interesting that you said that about not enough, because coming back to NLP and EFT and limiting beliefs, right? That the beliefs that I hear also, I'm not enough, or I'm not worthy of X, Y, or Z, you know, I'm not deserving of it. You know, so those beliefs really can stop us from moving ahead, from going for things, right? Not like, oh, I don't have enough qualifications. They also say the same thing where women will, if they see a job description or, you know, in my case, like an RFP, a request for proposals, and it's like, oh, you're looking for a candidate or you're looking for a vendor with XYZ, you know, 15 qualifications. And a woman can look at it and be like, well, I have 12. Oh, maybe I won't apply, right? So it's very interesting. Have you seen that as well?
Oh, definitely. Before I was coaching, I was actually a recruiter. So I was working in HR. So it's interesting that you specifically bring up that fact because I would see that as a recruiter, what I would do is I would reach out to passive candidates. So, you know, I'd get a job description. It's like, oh, I'm looking for an SVP social media. So then I'd go and, you know, do my search and then I'd come up with, you know, 10 people and I'd start reaching out. And what I discovered was not only were the men ready to jump in and be like, yeah, I'm interested, throw my hat in the ring, as I would talk about certain points that they had highlighted or that they had identified on LinkedIn, doing further research, I discovered that they'd never done that. So not only had they never done it, they listed that they had, I mean, the amount of, you could either say confidence or you could say, you know, the BS meter reader there, like that was there. With the women, on the other hand, when I'd call them up, exactly, you know, and here's the beautiful thing, like LinkedIn, a program, at least I discovered, they don't discriminate. So they're just looking for those keywords. So if you've got the keyword, it'll pop you up, right? So then as I'm going through, that's when I'd call them and then I'd investigate. I discovered that the women would be leaving things out. And I'd be like, wait a minute, how come you didn't put on here that you headed the campaign for Coca-Cola as the head of Twitter? You know, and well, you know, it was really a team effort. And I'd be like, okay, I get it. So yes, do women tend to fall into the, I don't meet the criteria, I'm bragging, let me dial it, let me scale it back a little bit. And then men tend to, you know, do it a little, you know, push forward a little bit more. And it is present. It is. I witnessed it firsthand as a recruiter.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And have you noticed any sort of unique challenges for women of color in these arenas, or as it relates to confidence?
I'm so happy you brought this up. I tend to believe, and it's not backed up by research, but it's from my experience as a recruiter and then now as a coach. I feel like people of color in general tend to have a little bit lower confidence when it comes to these things. And so it's beautiful to see stories like that, or because you've worked for it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Right. So I believe that and as for me, right, a gay Mexican male, I feel that my confidence before I got coaching, you know, was down in the, you know, down in the dumps as well. Because of the I'm not worthy, because of the am I doing it right compared to everyone else? Yeah.
Right. And being sort of, and I don't know about for you, but for me in environments before I was in my business, and even still now as an entrepreneur, right, being the only representation in a room, right? So when you raise your hand, or when I raise my hand and say something, right, it's like all eyes on me, and right. So then where, you know, I need to be able to come into that situation, you know, confident and be able to say, yes, this is my opinion, or yes, I believe this, or no, I believe that. And yeah, I think it does take time in cases to develop that. What do you think?
It's interesting because last night my husband and I and a couple of friends went to a Fiverr event, right? And it was put on by a stress management coach. And as I'm sitting there, you know, how I see it, she asked a question and I raised my hand, what have you. In the past, that wouldn't have been me, right? It wouldn't have been me because I would have been in the back. Number one, I was in the front row. So I would usually be in the back trying to go unnoticed and just like hoping she wouldn't ask me a question. And then now I'm in the front raising my hand, and I do notice these things and how I see it, but it never would have happened before coaching for me. Right? Because again, I coach for my breakdowns and I coach for my breakthroughs. And so I have a coach. So I'm continuously going to that next level, right? I see me, whatever I say as a contribution, right? And so that's the mindset that I have when I answer questions or when I show up to a podcast or whatever. I'm contributing as a coach, as a gay male, as a Mexican, you know, and that's just where I'm at. And I don't, it's a slice of the pie of who I am, right? I'm a coach, that's a slice. I'm Mexican, that's a slice, you know. Right now in 2019, I'm a male, that's a slice. It could go either way with that one, right? You know, that might be a slice you want to keep undercover, but you know, it's not who I am 100%. You know, it's looking at the whole, and as a whole, this is what I have to contribute. And that really has changed me speaking up and me being present and me being more vocal. Yeah.
So what are some tips or suggestions that you have for listeners in terms of enhancing or developing their self-confidence if they're feeling a little bit like, you know, I'm the person that sits in the back row that hopes no one calls on me. I go to networking events. I don't really talk to people. What steps or tips do you have for them?
Yeah, what I would say is, you know, there's three that I can totally name off. And the first one is really seeing yourself as being a contribution. You know, That's the first one, because a lot of the times when we answer whatever, it's so focused on us. Like, what if I say the wrong thing? But if you really come from, I'm being a contribution, I have life experience that is valuable. I bring something to the table that no one else does, you know? Even if there's another, you know, gay male Mexican in the, which happens to be my husband, my experience is totally different than his. So I have something to contribute. So if you really take a step back, and whether you're networking or you're in the office or whatever, really valuing the fact that you've made it this way, this long, and you've done so many great things, you have something to contribute in whatever, you know, you're being asked or whatever's, you know, the presentation. The second thing to keep in mind is, what are you committed to, right? So I showed up at the event last night because I was really wanting to hear, you know, what are some, the topic was creative stress reduction. So I was like, oh, this sounds like fun. So what am I really committed to? I'm committed to really get the information, download creative ways to stress reduction, right? And she's an artist herself. Her name is Carly. I forget what her last name was, but she's an artist. So she's developed ways to reduce stress through creativity, through an artist kind of way. And so I'm committed, I'm sitting at that presentation committed to really grab everything. So if I'm committed, then I'm engaging, right? So if you're going to a networking event, what are you committed to? Are you committed to new business? Are you committed to be, you know, a contribution? There's a reason why you're going to that thing you're going. There's a reason why I came onto this podcast. So number two is, what are you committed to? Mm-hmm. And then the third thing is really like, what's the outcome that you're looking to create, right? What's the experience you're looking to create? Again, if I'm in the back, I hope they don't not pick on me, but I hope they don't call on me. And it might look like picking, right? Oh my God, don't let them call on me, right? What's the experience you're looking to create for yourself at this event, in the podcast, whatever? And I think that's a key component, right? And so I think if people keep those things in mind, I think your confidence starts to, because you really start to focus on your experience versus what are other people thinking. And I think that that's where the confidence meter kind of gets thwarted, because you think, you know, oh, someone has confidence, they just show up and da-da-da-da. And it's really something that you can train yourself in. You're not born with confidence. When you're born, you don't have a tag on the back that says, oh, this baby's going to have confidence. Oh, no, this baby's not, poor thing. No, it's a skill that you develop, right? And I'm living proof of that. I'm absolutely living proof. So I think if you really know, you know, that you're creating a contribution, what you're committed to, and the experience that you want to have in whatever situation, it really will elevate your confidence level.
That's amazing. I love all of that. And I love the sense of the first piece is that sense of self-worthiness, like we were talking about, that like you are enough in your own way, wherever you are, whoever you are, how far you've come. And then the last two are kind of like setting the intention for what's actually going to happen. And so my thought would be, right, if I were using your tips, thinking about them before I go into the situation, before I go into the meeting, before I go into the networking event, before I go into the interview, or, you know, the meeting with the client, then I'm more likely to create that experience on the back end. That's amazing. I love that. I love all of that. I'm asking everyone that's a guest on this segment, what does start within mean to you? And I'd like you to also share how that might connect to confidence. So what does start within mean to you? And how do you think that connects to self-confidence?
So what that means to me, and it's such a great question, and I love it. On my podcast, what I ask people is like, how do you reset, right? So my podcast is called Sunday Reset, and I bring guests on board, and I want to hear everybody has something to contribute. How do you reset from a bad day, a bad breakup, a bad job, bad, you know, whatever it is? And so what you're I love that you're doing the exact same thing. And for me, what it comes down to is actually self-generating, right? It comes down to self-generating. And what I mean by that is I've been working on an online course. I've had this idea of doing an online course, but there's something stopping me, right? And those things that stop me are that little chatter, right? That I call the always internal dialogue. And it stops me and it says something like, well, no one's gonna buy it, right? No one knows who you are, right? Exactly. Its job is literally to just sit there and bully me, right? And so the chatter, the always internal dialogue, no one's gonna buy it, no one knows who you are, and if people do buy it, they're not gonna get anything out of it. Who do you think you are, right? So these are the things that really, really come to play for me as I'm sitting there trying to script out, creating the content for my online course, right? And what I discovered was on some days, the chatter is louder, it's on loudspeaker. And on other days, it's just, I'm able to lower the volume. Yeah, I'm able to lower the volume. And so on the days that I actually lower the volume, I can work because it's like to the side. I push it to the side. But so what's the difference between lowering the volume days and the loudspeaker days? There's a trigger, something happened. And so that's what I'm aware of, that something triggered me. And then now the always internal dialogue is on loudspeaker. Mm-hmm. So self-generating is not me hanging out, waiting for now someone to rescue me, right? Sometimes I do need to reach out though and get some coaching. But the majority of the times, because of the coaching experience that I have, I'm able to self-generate now from all my coaching experience. So what that looks like is me, okay, Nando, seriously, you have so much knowledge. And you've created so many breakthroughs for yourself financially, in your relationship. You've created your own practice. Like, you've come such a long way. How can anyone not get something from what you're saying, from what you're doing, and saying, here are the steps. This is how I got here. Follow some of these same steps. Who knows where you'll get, right? So it's really self-generating. So that's, to me, is like what it is to like start with it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so when you are able to self-generate, do you notice for yourself that then that impacts your own confidence?
Yes, because then I'm inside of, back to what I was saying, I'm being a contribution, what's my commitment, and then what's the experience I want to have, trigger towards you, at least for me. And so I really have to like get back into, my, am I being energetic enough? What's the experience here, right? And so if there's something that I don't feel comfortable, like, you know what, I need to flush this out a little bit more, the confidence drops a little bit, because then I feel like, oh, I'm not doing the service to the people that are going to watch this. So it's very much related. If I'm self-generated and I'm like, if I'm inspired, I'm in possibility, then my confidence is up here. But if I haven't self-generated and I'm looking at life like, oh, I just can't get it right. Or, there's so much noise outside, it's going to be in the video, like all these distractions, then the confidence goes down.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel very similarly. And for me, right, being able to find, the tools like EFT we've talked about, you were mentioning the NLP, or for me, meditation and sleep, like I noticed for myself personally, like on days where after nights where I haven't gotten a lot of sleep, I need to do a lot more, to use your word, self-generating, to get the energy going, to be able to keep going. And then if I do get triggered, it might be easier for me to kind of get thrown back because I don't have the same rest, inside. I didn't get the same amount of rest or the same amount of sleep. So it hits me a little bit differently.
And I think I'm so happy you said that, because something that comes up for me also is like, are you taking care of your well-being? Because you could have all the confidence in the world, you could be committed, but like you said, if you're not getting enough sleep, if you're not drinking your water, which you will see me constantly with my big gulp here, and it's full of water, sleep, eating nutritiously, there you go. these are things that people don't really realize that they really thwart you in whatever it is you're trying to achieve. Those are the basics. Yes, you could hire me as a coach. We could hire you as a coach. But if you're not doing those basic things for yourself, then you're not going to be optimized.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's a great way of sharing it. So speaking of your work and all that sort of fun stuff, how can people find out more about what you do? Are you online, social media, the whole 9 yards?
I was lucky enough way back in the day when not internet had started, but when the social platforms started coming out, I grabbed every single one of them. So people can find me anywhere at Nandoism, right? So it's nandoism.com. On Instagram, it's Nandoism. Yahoo, YouTube, it shows my age. YouTube, it's at Nandoism, just everywhere. All the social platforms at Nandoism. Yeah, but the main hub is nandoism.com, and then everything else, they can offshoot through there.
That's fantastic. I always have so much fun whenever we speak. So I'm so glad that we carved out this time to have this conversation, and your energy radiates and it gets me excited, and I always feel more energized after talking with you.
Oh, thank you so much. And we have to set up a time for you to come on my podcast.
Oh, I'd love that.
You can tell my listeners how you reset.
I would love to do that. Okay, yeah, that's amazing. And then we'll cross share. So listeners, we'll when I'm on that show, we'll share Nando's podcast, and I'll share your podcast link in the notes for this show as well. So perfect. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. It was a great time. I love the direction that you do your podcast in. It's absolutely wonderful. And I'm really, really hoping that somebody gets, that I've been able to contribute to someone with with my message.
Oh, definitely. I'm convinced. You helped me, right? So, and it's just one person, right? And that is the thing, right? Thinking about, to your point about, right, we can be a contribution. It doesn't always have to be to 1 million people at a time, right? If one person gains something from this podcast, then I feel like we've done our jobs.
Totally agree. 100% agree. Yes.
Fantastic. So keep tuning in, folks, for future segments of Coach Chat. And this is Coach Colette helping you to start within to finish strong.